And more, much more than this, I did it my way. Hey, it's Nate with another piano tutorial. Today we're going old school. We're gonna do the classic My Way by Frank Sinatra. It's a beautiful song. It's full of really cool jazzy chords. And while the weird chords might seem intimidating, it actually flows really nicely in the fingers and it's not too tricky to play. Let's just get into it. Okay, so let's start learning these chord progressions, and I recommend getting the chords and lyrics chart. I put a link down in the description. That'll help you follow along and see where the chords you play line up with the words you sing. You can print it out, take notes on it, whatever helps. And this song is kind of just like a bunch of verses in a row, and there are two different chord progressions that are used in the verses. We can just call them chord progression A and B, and chord progression A gets used in the first, second, and fourth verse, and then for the third and fifth voice, we'll use chord progression B. So let's start with that chord progression A. Here's the first line of chords, and before we learn these individual chords, just kind of big picture zoomed out, the right hand for all of these chords is going to play an A and an F sharp. That's going to be the outside edges of the chord, and then we'll kind of fill in what happens in the middle. Also notice we're going to have the left hand be doing bass notes, just single bass notes on the note the chord is named after, unless it has the slash, like for that A minor 6/C, the bass note is going to be a C. And so what you can see here is that the left hand is just going to be stepping down chromatically. D, C sharp, or it probably says D flat, same note, C, B. So right off the bat, that's going to make it really flow in the hand. So we've got a D major chord. So it's going to be that A we talked about, and a D in the middle with the third finger, and then that F sharp, and we're doing that D bass note. Now, for the F sharp minor / C sharp, we're just going to step the left hand down to that C sharp / D flat, and same thing, this D is going to just step down a half step there. Then for this A minor 6/C, of course, the left hand is going to play a C. Right hand is going to keep doing those same outside notes, but we're going to take it down to a C. And then we're also going to add with our fourth finger an E there. If you find that a little bit tricky to use all four fingers in this shape, you can totally leave out that E note. I think this sounds just about as nice on the recording. You can hear that E there, so it's a little more accurate. And then finally, we go down to the B7. So of course, left hand stepping down to a B bass note, and the right hand on top of those outside notes is also going to do an E flat. So I'm going to step through those all one more time. Fingering in the left hand, I'm starting on my second finger and then using like 3, 4, 5. If something else feels more comfortable, you can do that, but that flows pretty well for me. So we've got the D, the F sharp minor over C sharp, the A minor 6 over C, and the B7. And we're in 4/4 time, just a nice kind of slow 4/4 time, thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, and each one of these measures gets 4 counts. And now 2, 3, the end is near, 2, 3, and so I face the final curtain. All right, I think we're ready for the next line, and once we finish this chord progression, I'll go back and add some more rhythm options. And here's the second line. We're going to start out with an E minor chord, and since I started with the second finger here on D in the left hand, my thumb is already kind of conveniently placed for that E, and then the right hand is going to do a B, an E, and a G. My friend, I'll say it clear. So E minor over D, the right hand's just going to do the same thing. The left hand just steps down to a D bass note. This next measure is a little weird. It's basically, we're doing an A7 chord. Right hand is going to keep those two notes and add the A and the C sharp or D flat. And again, if you have a little trouble with that shape, you can leave out that E and just do those three notes. On the recording, the bass starts out by doing the C sharp and then moves down to the A bass note. So you can kind of do like 1, 2, 3, 4, just a little bit of movement in the bass there. And then finally, we're gonna land on D, the same D we did in the first line. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. Almost there. So this third line uses a lot of the same chords that we've already done. It starts out, the first three chords are the same as the first three chords in the first line, except we're moving faster now. Notice that it's two chords crammed in to one measure right off the bat there. So it's going to be D, 2, and then F sharp minor over C sharp, 2, A minor 6 over C, 2, and then this A diminished 7 over C. The only thing that needs to change is this E here is going to go down to an E flat. It's a cool, tense sounding chord. And of course, when you get that tense, it sounds really nice to resolve it. So this G chord here sounds really satisfying. Yeah, so that I went down to a G bass note there with my pinky. And then in the right hand, we've got a B, a D, and a G. So that's just an inversion on a typical G major chord. Last chord in this series, we've got G minor 6. So we're gonna keep the G up here with the pinky. We are going to drop the thumb down to a B flat. And then in the middle, we've got a D and an E. So from that G, all we gotta do is drop the thumb and put the third finger down. And of course, the bass note in the left hand is still G. So that's, I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway. Okay, one final short line here, and we had to kind of hop the left hand down to get that pinky on G, and that's where the left hand can kind of stay for this last part, because then we'll just use our thumb on D, and this is the same D that we've been using all along. Then we've got this measure where it's A sus4 to A, and we can just step to the fourth finger here for the A bass note, and we can actually keep these two fingers the same and add this E here. So A, D, E, and then it's just gonna resolve down from the sus4 to a regular A major chord. Only thing that needs to change is this D needs to come down to a D flat. And I like the fingering here getting from the D, but if you want to kind of collapse your hand down to this A, maybe 1, 3, 5 for the fingers, I think that works nice. And then finally, after that A, we've just got a G, the same way we were doing it before, for full measure, and then back to a D, just like we've been doing it. And more, much more than this, I did it my way. 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm gonna play and sing through that whole first verse using this A section chord progression. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more rhythm in the right hand. I'm gonna do quarter note chords. So just basically, we've been counting this slow 4/4 pulse. I'm just gonna hit the chord on every count. I'm also gonna be using the sustain pedal, basically just holding it down to smooth out those quarter notes, and then every time the chord changes, just doing a quick lift, kind of clear the slate. If you need help getting the hang of the sustain pedal, I made a video, so check that out. Here we go. And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. So at this point, you can do most of the song, because 3 out of 5 of the verses just follow that exact progression and melody. It's just the words are a little different. Before we learn the B section, I just want to add one more optional rhythm element with the left hand. The bass on the recording is kind of doing this 1, 2, and 3, 4. We need to think in eighth notes for this. So instead of just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, we're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and basically In addition to playing the bass notes on beat 1, I'm going to play it on the and after 2, 1 and 2 and then on beat 3 as well. 1, 2 and 3, 4. So that's sort of like together, right, left, together, right, left, together, right. Just gives it a little bit more movement. So if you can get a hang of that, it's kind of a cool addition. Okay, so the B section. Here is the first line. A lot of the chords are similar in this section. One thing is this is sort of the more dramatic, loud section. So right off the bat, I think for these verses, verse 3 and 5, I'm going to do octaves for the bass notes in my left hand. If that's too much of a stretch, you could keep doing one. You might want to jump down an octave to get that power. But I'm just going to do octaves for the whole section. So it starts off right away. Basically, the first 2 measures is the same as the first 2 measures of the third line from the A section where we had kind of the fast pace. D down to that F sharp minor over C sharp, then the A minor 6 over C to the A diminished 7 over C. Now we're going to go to a G, just like we were doing before, for a full measure, and then G major 7. So that's the first time that's shown up, but all that needs to happen is that top G needs to just come down to an F sharp. It's that nice, breezy, jazzy major 7 sound. Then the next line, we've got E minor 7. I'm going to take the hands up here for those E octaves, and the right hand actually plays the same thing we've been doing for the G chord. So just B, D, G. So that is a full measure of that. Then a full measure of A7. Same way we've been doing it. Again, you can leave out that E if it's easier for your hand. Then we've got this F sharp minor here. Gonna come down to F sharp in the left hand, getting pretty low here, and then the right hand basically plays the same thing as that A major chord, just A, D flat, and E. And then finally for this line, we've got this B minor 7. So left hand's gonna come up to B, and the right hand can keep that thumb on A, and it's gonna look like that. Well, it's the same thing as the D major chord we've been doing all along. It's also really similar to that B7 we did in the first line. It's just we've got a D in the middle there to make it minor. There's just one more short line, so I'll finish up with that and then play the whole thing through. So back to the E minor 7 for a measure, back to the A7 for a measure, then down to a G6. So this is kind of a combination of the G chord we did and the G minor 6 we did. So we're taking the G chord and just adding an E. It's sort of optional, but I hear it in there, both the note that he sings, but also sometimes the strings are doing it as well. Anyway, and then finally back to D. So all through the whole thing, I'll sing it a little bit. This is the really loud, dramatic part. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. And then it would go to that next verse. I've loved getting quiet again and just using single bass notes in the left hand. I just did that with holding the left hand bass notes and quarter notes, but I think for my full performance, I'm going to use that 1, 2, and 3 rhythm. So the fifth verse is another one of those dramatic B sections. It just has different words than the one we just did. But starting on the last line of that B section, the rhythm kind of stops and it sort of starts holding things out. It's in this dramatic way. The song is kind of wrapping up. We've got the whole orchestra really going for it here. So from the middle of the second to last line there, it's like, and not the words of one who kneels, the record shows I took the blows and did it So notice I'm just holding that. I stopped with all the rhythm I was doing. My way. So just holding these chords out, but also maybe slowing down a little bit. Like you can kind of drag it out. My way. And then we have the outro starting here, and it continues in kind of this loose, drawn out fashion. You don't have to like be plugged into the feeling of a metronome here. So the first line of the outro is the same as the third line of the A sections. The only difference is being for this first line of the outro, I'm going to keep it dramatic with the left hand octaves. And instead of that F sharp minor over a C sharp, we're going to have this C sharp augmented chord. That's what the little plus means. So that's going to be, we're going to be on that C sharp or D flat in the left hand octaves, and then A, C sharp, F. It's really dramatic sounding here. And then the next two chords are the same. Same thing here. Just kind of letting it be slow. And then we're going to get quiet here. Going to go back to single bass notes. It's the D, F sharp minor over C sharp, and then this time it's going to go to a B minor 7. So just like we did before, still stepping to the B bass note, then A, D, F sharp here, and you can just kind of let that ring out a little bit. It's really slowing down here. It's like, and then when you feel it, get to the A, just like we did before. Yes, it was mine, just like the other G6. Finish on way. So you can even in this section, you could kind of do a little arpeggios if you want, like kind of like. You could even, do some of that. Just, be dramatic with it, feel it out. Now, before I do the full cover, I just want to give you a couple of little sort of rhythm options or piano part style options, because on the recording, there is no piano that's just doing those quarter notes. There's kind of two keyboard instruments, it sounds like, one of which is doing this little arpeggio that sounds like this. And then there's another one that sounds like maybe it's an organ that's up an octave higher, and instead of just doing quarter notes, it's doing eighth notes like. So if that's the vibe that makes sense to you, I think that would totally be cool. So that's just like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Doing the arpeggio would be a little trickier. It's harder to play and sing at the same time. But I'm actually, the intro of the song, which we kind of skipped over, it starts with just 2 measures of D before that first verse starts. I'm going to do the arpeggio there just to kind of reference the recording and then switch to the quarter notes. So here's what the arpeggio would be. It's just on every eighth note, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and the first beat 1 you're gonna play with just the left hand bass note, and then let's just call out the numbers of the fingers. So 1, 3, and 5, and the pattern is left 1 3 1 5 1 3 1, then it would repeat left 1 3 1 5 1 3 1. So that's just how I'm going to start the song. If you like that vibe, you could try applying that same pattern once you get the hang of it. And now the end is near, and so I face my final. So when you have like 4 notes, you have to kind of fudge it a little bit. Just basically, as long as you're kind of rocking back and forth and using notes from the chords, it'll sound good. But like I said, I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to mention it. All right, thank you for sticking with me. I am now going to do the full cover of the song so you can see how all the parts we just learned fit together. If this was your first tutorial with me and you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. Click the bell so you know when I put out more videos like this. And welcome to the channel. I hope you will poke around a little bit and find some other songs that I've done that you are also interested in learning. And of course, if you have a song you're dying to learn and you'd like to request it, you can just leave a comment. Okay, here's my version of My Way. And now the end is near, And so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, what's more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way. Oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got, if not himself? Then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my Yes, it was my